Imagine a love story so intense it gave birth to one of the most iconic albums of all time, but also contributed to the untimely death of one of the most beloved artists in modern music history. Amy Winehouse's tragic passing in 2011 shocked the world, but even more shocking are the layers of heartbreak, addiction, and toxic relationships that led to her downfall. Was her ex-husband, Blake Fielder Civil, responsible for her death? Or was Amy already on a dangerous path long before they met? And what role did her father, Mitch Winehouse, play in all of this? Stay with us to uncover the truth behind Amy Winehouse's tragic demise. But before we dive into it, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the lives of your favorite stars. Amy Winehouse and Blake Fielder Civil were, by all accounts, a modern-day Romeo and Juliet, if Romeo and Juliet had been entangled in addiction and self-destruction. Their love story began in a London pub in 2005 when Amy was just stepping into the spotlight of her music career. Blake, at the time, was handing out nightclub flyers, far from the world of fame. But within weeks, their bond became magnetic, intense, and dangerously codependent. Their relationship spiraled fast. Amy, deeply in love, began altering her behavior to mirror Blake's habits. Friends and family recall how Amy refused to go anywhere without him, creating a bubble of isolation that kept her close to Blake and further away from anyone who could help. Amy famously got his name tattooed on her chest, and Blake reciprocated with a tattoo of her name behind his ear. These gestures of love, though, symbolized a deeper, darker connection. Many described Blake as her most dangerous addiction, one that would accelerate her downfall. Only 6 months into the relationship, a devastating news for Amy marked the first turning point. Blake left Amy to return to his ex-girlfriend. During a holiday with one of her best friends in St. Lucia, she got a voicemail from him saying he didn't want to leave his girlfriend. He thought they'd be better off as friends and refused to see her. She began obsessively trying to contact him, yet it was fruitless. This breakup would become the emotional core of her critically acclaimed album Back to Black. She poured her heartache into the songs, but her pain wasn't just emotional. Substances became her coping mechanism. By the time she and Blake reunited in 2007 and married in Miami, their relationship had already grown toxic beyond repair. It was around this time that Blake introduced Amy to Class A substances, worsening her already fragile state. However, their intense relationship couldn't withstand the strain. In 2009, while Blake was in and out of prison, the couple officially divorced. The end of their marriage marked the conclusion of one of the most destructive periods in Amy's life. Though it was clear that Blake's influence would leave a lasting impact on her. But Blake wasn't the only influence in Amy's life. What about her family? What role did her father play in all this? Mitch Winehouse, Amy's father, has always painted himself as a loving, protective figure in her life. But the reality is far more complicated. The father-daughter relationship was a tight bond, but one often riddled with contradictions. While Mitch spoke publicly about wanting to help Amy recover from her addiction, his actions sometimes told a different story. Take Amy's famous song, Rehab, for instance. The line, "I ain't got the time, and if my daddy thinks I'm fine," directly points to a real-life moment when Mitch dissuaded her from going to rehab. Amy had agreed to go, but only if her father thought it was necessary. Mitch, however, didn't, and she took that as her get-out-of-jail-free card to continue her downward spiral. Her first manager, Nick Szymanski, also confirmed that Mitch played a key role in Amy's decision not to seek help at a critical moment. But this raises a bigger question. What was motivating Mitch's decisions? Was he genuinely trying to protect Amy? Or was there something more self-serving at play? Was Mitch reluctant to let his daughter step away from the spotlight, knowing that her fame and fortune were still rising? Could it be that he was worried that if Amy went into recovery, the media attention and her financial success might fade? Mitch's involvement didn't stop there. In 2009, when Amy was trying to escape the spotlight and recover in St. Lucia, Mitch arrived with a camera crew to film a documentary about her recovery. While it's possible he believed this would shine a positive light on Amy's journey, many saw it as exploitation, making Amy's recovery a public spectacle rather than offering her the privacy she desperately needed. Was Mitch capitalizing on her struggles for public consumption? Could he have been using her fame to further his own ambitions? More troubling was Mitch's attitude toward her relationship with Blake. Despite seeing how toxic Blake was for his daughter, Mitch often allowed Amy to return to Blake's orbit, seemingly indifferent to the damage Blake was causing. His mixed messages and failure to intervene left Amy trapped in a cycle of addiction and toxic love. It wasn't just her personal relationships that weighed heavily on Amy. She was also constantly under the brutal scrutiny of the media. Headlines routinely splashed her darkest moments across front pages. Paparazzi swarmed her at every turn, and her struggles with addiction were front and center for the world to see. Tabloids ran stories with brutal headlines like Amy Winehouse, The Trainwreck, and Drunk Again, Amy's Wild Night Out. There were even more invasive pieces like Amy's Collapsed, What's Next for the Troubled Star? The pressure of living under this constant public judgment made it nearly impossible for Amy to recover in peace. The media circus surrounding her every move only made things worse, leaving her feeling even more isolated, trapped in a persona that the world had created for her. Amy Winehouse died on July 23, 2011, from alcohol poisoning. She was just 27 years old. But how did people learn of her death? And what was the immediate reaction? On that fateful day, her bodyguard found her lifeless in her London home. Paramedics were called, but it was too late. Amy was gone. The news of her death spread like wildfire. Mitch Winehouse, who had been hopeful that Amy was on the path to recovery, was devastated. In the months leading up to her death, Amy had reportedly gone 3 weeks without drinking, sparking hope in her father that she was finally getting better. However, her final relapse proved fatal. As for Blake, he was in prison at the time of Amy's death, serving a sentence for his involvement in an assault case. When informed of her passing, Blake was reportedly inconsolable. But what raised eyebrows was that he did not ask for compassionate leave to attend her funeral. At the time, Blake had moved on and was in a relationship with his then-girlfriend, Sarah Aspen. She revealed that Blake didn't want to show up in handcuffs out of respect for Amy and her family. In fact, Blake didn't visit Amy's grave until almost 3 years after her death, a delayed act of grief that still lingers in the public consciousness. Despite all the obstacles, could Amy have been saved? It's a question that continues to haunt those who loved her, particularly her father, Mitch. As the man who was by her side throughout much of her life, Mitch often wrestles with the decisions he made and the role he played in her tragic decline. Though he was vocal about supporting her recovery, Mitch has often spoken about the deep sorrow and guilt he feels, knowing that he could not save his daughter. Since her death, he has remained in the public eye, keeping her legacy alive. But the weight of her loss and the unanswered questions surrounding it continue to loom over him. Those closest to Amy, like her friend James, believed she was fighting hard to overcome her demons. She had worked tirelessly to get clean from drugs, and her attempts to quit alcohol were becoming more consistent. But in the end, the pressures of addiction, fame, and toxic relationships proved too much for her to bear. Amy Winehouse's story is one of incredible talent, overshadowed by intense pain, addiction, and toxic relationships. Blake Fielder Civil may forever be tied to her downfall, but as we've explored, there were many factors at play. From her complicated relationship with her father to the relentless scrutiny of the media, Amy faced battles on every front. In the years since her death, Blake has tried to rebuild his life, seeking redemption and reflecting on his role in Amy's story. Mitch Winehouse has continued to speak publicly about his daughter's legacy, even as some still question his role in her tragic decline. What's undeniable is that Amy's voice, her music, and her raw talent will forever be remembered, even as we continue to untangle the heartbreak behind her iconic songs. Let us know your thoughts. Do you think Amy could have been saved, or was her fate sealed long before the final chapter? Don't forget to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more stories that dig deep into the lives of your favorite stars.